Malvern Books tonight. It's a very exciting night. We've been kind of going back and forth for a while trying to get Typewriter Rodeo in here. And, you know, it's just tremendously exciting what they do. And I think the best way to start is just for them to tell you a little bit about who they are and what they do. And then we can ask them some questions. And then they can do what they do. So, all right?
Sure, yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I'm David, and this is Sean. We're half of the founding 4 members of the Typewriter Rodeo. So there's the 4 of us, and then in addition, there's maybe 5 or 6 other folks that we call upon sometimes to join us for events. And we got started pretty close to 4 years ago at a big event called the Maker Faire, which if you haven't been to the Maker Faire, it's really fun. I think it happens in May, and it's like an enormous craft fair, but they also have robots and lasers and Legos. It's for makers with capital M. It's just kind of a movement of people who are kind of making their own things, manufacturing their own things, whatever they might be. And so our friend Jody Edgerton is a writing coach and teacher here in town, consultant, and she was going to have a booth at the Maker Faire, and she invited some of us to come, and what we were going to do as our thing to make, our contribution, was to write spontaneous stories and poems for people who came up. And our other friend, Carrie Ann, happened to have a collection of vintage manual typewriters. And she said, well, why don't I bring those? And that'll be kind of an additional attraction. And I don't think you or I even owned a typewriter at that time.
No, it had been a long time since I'd even seen one. But it was really cool because she was like, hey, I got these cool, and I think her in-laws had given them to her, and so she brought them. We're like, yeah, that'd be cool, whatever. And it was kind of like what the Reese's thing with like the peanut butter and chocolate, like the poetry and typewriters just kind of went together. And we never planned for it to be more than just that one day, like a one-off thing. We're like, oh, we'll help people, you know, come to Jody's booth, help her get foot traffic for that, like doing this. And so, but we did, and the people there loved it, and we didn't even know what we were gonna do. We just started out, and like the very first girl came up, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know." so ended up writing her a haiku about dragons. So that was kind of how.
That was your first typewriter rodeo?
That was That was the first typewriter rodeo poem. Yeah, it was crazy and awesome. And but yeah, and then we got a line that kept the people that formed it, and they were like, "Do you guys do this at other events?" And we're like, sure, yeah, totally. That's what we do. And it just kind of snowballed after that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Another thing that happened that day is that someone, and none of us knows who this was, someone at some point called out, y'all are like a typewriter rodeo. And we're like, we are like a typewriter rodeo, and then we became the typewriter rodeo.
And what we do is we go to different events like maker fairs or museums or company parties or weddings or whatever. We have a little sign that says free poems, any topic, and so put that there. And so like the guests at whatever the event is will come up and they'll say like, hey, how you doing? What can I write you a poem about? And they will give us a topic or a story or just a word, whatever, and then we'll make up a poem about it on the spot on the typewriter and give them the poem.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you know, in the modern age, there are very few objects that there's just one of. Most things are reproduced, especially most pieces of media of any kind. Like there are immediately infinite copies on the internet. These are collections of words that there's only one of anywhere. Unless sometimes, once in a while, we'll ask them if we can take a picture, and so we can keep a picture or maybe post it ourselves. But for the most part, the poems are singular objects in the world, which is a kind of a special thing about them. I think it makes people feel personally about what they've gotten, about their poem, in addition to the fact that we've written it based on their request, people not infrequently say something to us like, how did you know what was in my mind? Do you look at my windows at home? How do you know these things about me?
We say yes.
Yes.
We do. I like that shirt you picked out today. No.
We're a little like fortune tellers. We're a little bit like a confession booth. People think, they feel like they'll never see us again. So sometimes they tell us very personal things that they would like to have a poem about. And other times it's just silly and ridiculous and fun.
And what's cool too is so yeah, again, we never planned to do any of this stuff, and we all have different backgrounds and kind of came together. And what's fun is we do these events, if it's a museum or something like that, or someplace like this, people are like, oh, I love poetry, poetry's so cool. We also get hired to do like company parties, like we'll go to a big corporate Christmas party or something like that, and the people come up and they're like, what are you doing? And we're like, we're writing free poems. They're like, why do I want a poem? Like, that sort of thing. I'm like, oh, well, you try it. And it's so amazing, like everybody loves poetry when it's about them. This is so cool, like, no. So, but it's a collaboration. Like if you just said to me, write a poem, I'm like, but if you give me a topic, then I can do that. And especially like David was saying, when people share a lot of themselves, and like, so we're co-creating a poem with them, which is really cool, I think. Yeah, and it's amazingly fun too, and it's amazing what people will share with us, because sometimes we get, what would you like a poem? I'm like, I want a poem about eating spaghetti on the moon. I'm like, all right, you do that, and then somebody else will come up and say like, I've been having a really tough time, or like a dog died, or worse, and so they'll tell us all about that, and we'll try and put it in a poem. Crazy and fun, and and it is an honor to be able to do that. So
Yeah, it's a gift to us to have that opportunity.
yeah. What's cool too is like Dave was saying, like there's only one copy of these poems, so we type them up on a piece of paper, we give it to them. Sometimes we take a picture, most of the time we don't, and then it's gone. We never see it again. Like I never know, And sometimes we'll get emails way later, people like, yeah, our poem's like hanging on the wall, or we framed the poem for our kids, it's in their bedroom. We're like, that's really cool. But I'm like, I don't have any recollection of what that poem was about, because, did I tell you that Jody and I tried to figure out how many poems we've written total since we started?
I know we've done that a few times. Did you just did it recently?
Yeah, take a guess. So we've been doing this for 4 years, and this is all 4 of us combined.
I can't even. What was your guesstimation?
We're above 18,000 poems right now.
Oh my
Wow.
I know, that is a ton
That's a
of
lot of
poems.
pressure.
200 books.
Right.
Quantity is quality.
At some point, I think.
It's quality all the time. But like you were saying, like I 30 seconds after I pulled the poem out of the typewriter, I have very little idea what I just wrote, because I'm on to the next one, and yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're here and gone 18,000.
I know, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
I don't even understand.
You and I and Carrie have written 3,000, and Jody's written 15,000.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. We'd love to take any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and things like that. What background did you guys have in poetry? Have you been writing poetry for a while? Published any chapbooks, any things like that? What made you think that you could sit down and write poetry on the spot?
Well, for me, I had just taken a few weeks before that writing workshop from Jody Edgerton, our co-founder, which was specifically about using techniques from improv comedy or stage improv in your writing to kind of kickstart your writing, to get things going, feel free and uninhibited. Actually 3 of the 4 of us who started out this have at least some background in improv, and that I think was a big part of the confidence that we can at least do something. Another kind of great thing about this for me anyway is that quality control goes right out the window.
Yeah.
Like if we were engaging our internal editor, there's no way that we could do it, I think, in the conditions. You just don't have enough time. But the fact that you're never going to see it again, it makes it for you or for us, the poets, a very ephemeral, here and gone kind of thing. And so it's a lot easier to feel free, I think, and sort of get out of your own way, I think. So my background, I have some background in improv. I also hosted a radio show on KWOP community radio here in town for many years called Slappy Pinch Bottom's Odd Preoccupation. And that radio show was devoted to the spoken word in all its various manifestations. And so I talked to a lot of poets on that radio show, had them on the air, read poetry on the air, but I certainly had not written nearly as much poetry in my life before. Well, I mean, just like the tiniest fraction as I have since the typewriter radio started. Was not a published poet at all. I think it might have been harder if I was trained in poetry.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I would never have guessed this is what I'm going to be doing, way later in my life. So, I also think, like, part of what we do, you have to have a good ear and rhythm for stuff, and I'm sure, like, doing radio, like, that just kind of naturally develops that, because you have to hear the poem, I think, in your head and while we're doing it. But yeah, if I had, like, a more strict poetry background, I think it might be a bit more difficult, because one of the things that I think people like when we do poems for them is it's poetry, but it's not like super highbrow poetry, so it's almost like poetry that almost anybody could get and enjoy, and so I think there's a cool part of it that way. Yeah, I did improv for a long time, like 15 years or so. Jody and I, that's how we met way long ago, doing improv here in Austin. So I've had that background. I write, but I write children's fiction stuff, and so not poetry. And I did poetry, and I actually did a lot when I was really little. And like when I started this, my mom was like, you wrote all these things, and so she took pictures of them and sent them to me. I was like, oh yeah, I remember those. So that's my background, and then a background that has nothing whatsoever to do with what we do. Like, I also teach at UT at the law school, legal writing and research, which, hopefully doesn't creep into the poems too much. But yeah, we all have different backgrounds. So Jody is a writer and improv, and Carrie Ann actually has done poetry. She's published some poetry books for kids before all this started.
Yeah, she writes novels and poetry,
Yeah.
novels and verse, as well as I think she has a book of haiku about her experiences as a mother. That's Carrie Ann Roy. K.A. Holt is her author's name.
Yes.
Do you ever experience writer's block? And if so, how do you
Right.
navigate that?
I do, but not up here. So it's kind of crazy. It's almost like, so if you're at a party and somebody asks you a question about any topic in the world, you probably have some response to that, right? So that's kind of how I think of it here, is whenever somebody comes up and gives any response, then the first thing that comes into my head, like then it goes into the typewriter. And it's a lot like improv in the sense that, like, I have no idea where it's going. 9 times out of 10 when I start the poem, no idea. And so the only thing is I do decide right off the bat, is this poem going to rhyme or not? If it's a lighthearted, funny poem, could be a rhyme. If it's a really dark poem or somebody's sharing something really kind of tragic, like those don't rhyme. But everything else could go either way. But yeah, and no, I've never had the time where I'm like, I have no idea what to write about. One of my favorite things that happened, we were at a wedding maybe a year and a half ago, and this kid came up, he was like, I don't know, 8 or 9, and he's like, can you write a scary poem? And I was like, sure, all right. And so I start typing the poem, and he comes around behind me, and he's like reading the poem here. He's like, what's it going to be about? And I was like, I don't know. and it ended up being about like what was creeping up behind us, and like not to turn around. And he's like, oh, like that. And I was like, that was kind of fun, because yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of it's going in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say just the same. Probably the closest in this situation that I've come to writer's block is when I've established some really solid rhyme scheme in a poem, and then I can't think of the rhyme that I need. And then I just try to remind myself that it doesn't matter. I can use any word I want, because it really doesn't matter.
And it's freeing in a way too, that we are doing it on the spot, and so we get more, I think, leeway from the people who are asking for the poem. Poems are free, like at least for the people who were at the event, they're not paying for it.
Recipients never have to pay for a poem.
Right, and so there's not that pressure for them. And then literally on this typewriter is like, you can't, there's no correcting ribbon or anything on this. It's not, if you had a computer, you could like edit it and re-edit it forever. And so I think it's sort of antithetical to writer's block a little bit with the typewriter, because once you start, you just have to keep going.
The only way out is through.
Other questions that anybody had? Yes?
Well, you mentioned your day job. Do you have another job?
I have a few other jobs. I do freelance writing for textbooks of various kinds. I also do some business consulting for my mom's small business and help her handle her digital affairs. And I'm also a stay-at-home dad and home educator.
Are those still the antique typewriters that were the original, or have you decided to get other typewriters?
So Sean had no typewriters when this whole thing started. How many typewriters do you have now?
I have too many typewriters. So we all used Carrie's typewriters when we started. So these aren't the original ones. And I got this one off of eBay probably within a couple of weeks when it became apparent that we might do other gigs.
And that's when I got this one too at Uncommon Objects on South Congress. Little kind of vintage junk store.
But yeah, Carrie Ann and I have become sort of the typewriter aficionados. I think she had 3 or 4 when we started. I hate to even say this, it sounds... she has probably 15 or 20, and I have probably 25 typewriters, which is
I
heavy.
only have 6 or 7 at this point.
Oh, really? You have 6 or... What? I didn't know that. This is exciting. I thought you just had the 2.
No, I've got
Keep some typewriters on the side.
yeah, that's right. So I was telling you this before the thing, but so this one was manufactured in 1941, that one 1928, and I like to ask people to imagine, so 76 years old, imagine anything, literally anything being manufactured today that is still going to be in good working order in 75 years. Like nothing, literally nothing that I can think of. Maybe, that has moving parts. And I'm sure this thing is going to still be working fine after I'm gone, which is kind of an amazing thing to think about. I got for Christmas this year, my mom got me a typewriter, really pretty machine that she ordered from a shop in the Netherlands. And I was doing some information. It's a manufacturer called Rheinmetall, which in the tradition of Remington was a manufacturer of typewriters and munitions. A lot of small moving parts, a lot of similar kinds of manufacturing tasks. And so Rheinmetall, come to find out, supplied a lot of munitions to the Nazi army in World War II, and made typewriters. And this typewriter was manufactured probably in the late 30s. So I just had to wonder, like, what is the haunted past of this new typewriter? What kind of orders was it used to fill out this German typewriter from the late 30s by Rheinmetall? So it's an odd legacy.
I haven't used that one at a gig, have you?
No, and the only one I use at the gigs is this first one I got. It's just such a beautiful workhorse. It's worked beautifully since the day I got it, and my favorite thing about this typewriter actually is that the shift keys, which are down in the corners here, are labeled Shift Freedom, and I just love that about this typewriter. I'm not sure exactly why. I think it might be because if you engage the shift lock, you press the shift key to free that lock, so shift freedom. But I just that's a 2-word poem by itself.
Yes.
Do you give your typewriters names?
Bessie. No, I don't have a name for my typewriter. No, that's a good question. I'd have to come up with a lot of names too for my 25 to 30 typewriters.
Yeah.
Do you have a name for?
I think the closest is I might just call it by the manufacturer. I might call it my Royal, or I might say my Royal Quiet Deluxe if I'm feeling fancy. I'm often feeling fancy. Yeah. Yeah, no, nothing more personal than that. I mean, I definitely feel a certain personality from it.
Oh yeah, they're all different too, which is really cool. Like each one has a different feel and a different like the tension even, or how quick it advances when you hit the space key or a key, and they all look
Different
different
sound.
too. Yeah, they have different sounds, and like I feel like I read somewhere that way back when the CIA used to be able to, if they saw typed anything on a paper, they could identify pretty closely like what machine that had come from, because they're all so different, which is amazing. Yeah, and this one's so cool too. It's you know, Remington portable, and it's got the keys that are kind of up like that, but when you put it in its case, they lay flat, which I think is really cool. And then to me, it looks like they're coming up like kind of like peacock feathers right there. So yeah.
How has doing this informed your other writing?
Oh, that's a great question. It's helped me so much, I think in 2 main ways. One is the writer's block that you were talking about. So before, when I was writing, I'd get stuck or couldn't even get started, and then I'd start and then go back and start and then go back. And so now, when I have that going on, I try and write at least the scenes, the very short scenes, and think of them as if I'm writing a poem and just go. I don't actually do it on the typewriter, I still do it on the computer, but just go and think of it in that mindset. And then I think the other way is just the confidence of it, that like, well, it's gonna end somewhere, and it'll be all right. It may not be great, but at least having the confidence to know that I can come up with something that's going. I think that's helped just a tremendous amount for me.
And for me, I don't do a ton of other writing besides this. I think it's helped me to write some songs, just using a similar method of getting a suggestion from somebody else to get started with, and then just working quickly and without self-editing. My partner, Marty, tells me that I have started to speak a little bit more imagistically since I've been doing all this, and speak more in more kind of poetical language.
And rhyme.
All the time.
That's right.
It's not a crime.
You are right.
Other questions, you guys?
Y'all said y'all did like 18,000 poems. Is there one that like pops out of memory that you need to met somebody really interesting that out of all the 18,000? Any unique experience?
Oh yeah.
One that you want back.
Say again?
A poem that you want back.
Yeah, I mean,
There's one I took a picture of.
Oh, yeah,
I'll let you answer that while I try to find this.
yeah, I've got a bunch, and for me, it's almost the stories that people tell as much as the poem that came from that. So a couple of mine that I have are one was, it was actually at the Maker Faire, I think 2 years ago, and this guy came up to me and he's just like, yeah, so my partner and I have been together for 8 years, and she wants kids and I don't, and there's nothing wrong, and he just stopped right there and he's like, can you write a poem about that? And I was like, oh. And so I wrote him a poem about, and it just popped in my head then, which doesn't usually happen like this way, but it was, the whole poem almost came into my head. And it was a poem about binary stars, which are the 2 stars that kind of orbit around each other. But then every once in a while, some weird thing will happen, or just like minutest change in anything, and they'll go apart like that. And so it was using that as a metaphor and saying something like, it's not that anything's bad or wrong, it's just that the universe says it's time. for that. You go, I love that poem. But you know, I never, ever, ever would have thought about anything like that if he hadn't shared that thing with me. So it's, and there's several things like that too. But yeah, that one stands out.
You've had some intense requests.
Oh my gosh.
We all have, but there's just a few of yours.
Yeah, I
that stand
totally
out.
forgot about. I've had those are separate stories, but I've had 2 requests for poems that the recipient could give to somebody to break up with them. And one of them, it was this guy, and he asked for the poem, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to, like, it was at UT. He was like, yeah, I'm a senior, I'm graduating, my girlfriend's a junior, and like I'm going to college someplace else, and she's staying here, and can you write a poem about that? I was like, oh, like a poem about long distance relationship? He's like, no, I think it's time for us to go apart. And I was like, oh, he's like, but I don't know how to tell her. And I'm like, you want me to write a poem that you can give to her to tell that you're breaking up? Yeah, can you do that? You're an ass. Do that. But the other time that happened, it was right there, and oh, no. Yes, it was at a museum. I don't even know if I want to say where it was. And the woman came up and she's like, yeah, and it was a woman, there was a guy behind her, and it was the last poem of the night, and she's like, can you write a poem about how you like somebody, but you're not in love with them? And she motions to the guy behind her. Oh, okay. And so I wrote the poem, and I actually liked that poem. I don't remember it all, but I remember it was a good poem, and I gave it to her, and we were done. Everybody else had closed down, and I was the last one. And I turned to Jody, who was right beside me, and I was like, Jody, you will never believe what just happened. I told her really quickly, and she's like, yeah, don't turn around because she's reading it to him right now. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, she's crying and he's standing there stoic, like this, with his arms crossed. I was like, who does that? Like, who does that here? So I never even looked. I was like, just tell me when they're gone. I don't even want to know what I was part of that. So, the power of poetry right there, I guess. I don't know. It's crazy.
So this is one that stands out for me a lot. I mean, there's a lot that can stand out, but for some reason this one, we write a lot of poems for kids. We love writing poems for kids. We type at schools and other kinds of events like the Maker Faire and other places where there's a lot of kids, and it's just always delightful, and they always have much more interesting topics than grown-ups. Not always, but a lot of the time. And usually it's pretty easy to avoid being age inappropriate when you're writing a poem for a kid, but not always. So this stands out to me in my mind as the most age inappropriate poem I've ever written for a child. This was for a young man named William, who I think was probably about 10 or 11, and he wanted a poem about Mickey Mouse. And so this poem is entitled M.M. for William. Sitting at the center of his vast underground lair, the most powerful rodent in the world thinks about his life as he pulls the strings that control so many movies and parks and rides and people and money. It's lonely sometimes to be the boss. He thinks about the good times with his girl and the duck, the dog that talked and the one that didn't. When they were young and scrappy, now they only see each other on Facebook. Wipes away a tiny tear and gets back to work. That's MM.
I just thought of one other one. It's one of my favorite poem stories too. This was fairly recently, and we were at a party. You know, it was like a birthday party type thing, and this girl came up and she was back there, and I was like, "What can I write you a poem about?" And she's like, "Basketball." I was like, "Oh, cool." And then her grandmother, who I think was her grandmother, was right there, and she's like, "You don't want a poem about basketball?" And the girl's like, she looked down and she's like, "Ballet, like dancing." I was like, and then I did that, and her grandmother's like, "You don't even like basketball." And I was like, all right, first thing you told me was basketball. I always go with the first thing that I type in my poems. I'm writing you a basketball poem. So I wrote her a basketball poem about how amazing she was, like, on the court, and not to underestimate what she could do at all. And I was like, I was so happy with that. When she just, like, her face lit up when her photo was right with the basketball phone, I was like, just go away, Grandma. Can we just go to the phone that she won? So,
I know that's right. I love that story.
yeah, that was a fun one. I really
That's awesome.
liked that. So, yeah. Yeah, which is so cool. Like, that's the kind of thing, like, I don't know, like, we're this tiny little moment of connection in people's lives that we get to have, and then it's gone. But,
Yeah, there was a kid at the UT Elementary School, at an event we did there, who wanted a poem for his mom, who had just finished her cancer treatment, about how much he admired her for being so brave and you know, was glad that she had made it through the whole cancer thing, and that.
that was that poem, the Mickey Mouse.
That was the
poem.
Mickey Mouse. Yeah, so sometimes even with kids, it'll get serious.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I read that y'all went to Boston not long ago. Was it last year?
We've been a couple
Yeah,
times.
it's
to
practically
Boston.
our away from home now.
Yeah, I saw that
Yeah.
on those, your old things that y'all post. And how did what was the experience? Did y'all carry your typewriter through the airport?
Yeah, we've done that a bunch of times.
How did that go? Security?
Yeah.
Usually it goes pretty well.
I got those stickers from where all the places we've been. It's fun
Yeah.
to do.
Mostly they just kind of like, they're just kind of maybe a little curious, like, oh, typewriter, that's interesting. If any one of us gets hassled though, it's going to be Sean.
Because I take two typewriters. I
Oh.
take a backup one. And yeah, and actually one of the trips we did to Boston, we were in Boston and then we went to Nantucket as well for the Nantucket Book Festival. And we flew those little tiny prop planes over there. And it's only like 8 or 9 seats out there. And we were going through and we were kind of late. I can't remember what the deal was. And everybody went, the 3 of them went through with their typewriters, fine. I go through, I have 2 typewriters, and they're like, oh, we need to inspect those. And I was like, the plane's taken off. And so they took them out of the case, looking through them, and I missed the flight because of that. So I was stuck on Nantucket and then in Boston for a long time after that. And so it was, yeah. But yeah, we went to Boston. It's cool. Like we've gone to Boston a few times, inspected some museums there, and the Boston Antiquarian Book Fair, so like rare books, really cool. We've been to DC. The Smithsonian was awesome. They set up an exhibit of their typewriters just for us. And so they brought all the old ones out. They brought out a typewriter that Shirley Temple had used when she was a kid. They had the typewriter from, what's the Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury, the opening credits where she's on the typewriter. That typewriter was there.
And they had a lot of models of typewriters before they kind of got standardized into this form that you see here. Like before that time, there was kind of wildly inventive variety of machines that people had devised to do typewriting with. Some of them had the kind of like a cylinder thing like this that would kind of spin around to type the letters when you type them on the keyboard, which is not shaped the same way either. Just a bunch of really interesting designs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, I don't think that, well, I don't know, but how many poets get to travel, you know, for work. We had to go to Cabo once for this. Like,
Wow.
Hilton and Cabo hired us to come down there and type. They had their hotel had been, like, devastated by a hurricane, I believe 2.5 years ago, and so they rebuilt it, and they had their reopening party, and so they hired us to come down for that, and we were like, we're typing poems on a beach, like, this is pretty cool. So yeah, it's fun stuff. We love it, and we feel really fortunate to be able to do all these different things.
Mhm.
And that people are so interested in poetry, again, and typewriters too, but that's fun.
Do you ever rip each other off stylistically?
Not on purpose, I don't think.
No, the only thing that I've done is when we first started writing poems, unless it was a haiku, I only did rhyming poems. And then, and I remember Carrie Ann was sitting next to me once, and I leaned over and like she had handed out a poem where she was reading it, and I was like, oh, I don't really have to rhyme every time. That is awesome. I just felt like so freed. I was like, I'm now doing free verse the whole time, but I was just like, so in that sense, yeah, but I don't know. I think we all have, you could tell who wrote which poem almost, even though we have different paper and different typewriters, but we each have very different.
Yeah, even without the
styles.
signature, if we know, and actually, I think even if we couldn't see the type, I think just from the style, I'd be able to tell easily which ones had written it.
Yeah, every once in a while, Jody and I will overlap a tiny bit, but I think that's about as close as we come. Like, Carrie and you are very different, and most of the time, we're all four very different.
The only thing I might have picked up from Carrie Ann is just the kind of the general idea that if you get a topic that's about food, you can easily make that about sex too. I picked that up from her.
Yeah. But it's funny too, I don't think we don't usually read each other's poems that when we don't have time. Like, it's literally like we're going for 2 or 3 hours straight, like, and there's not a break, and we don't read the poems out loud when we're done, we just give it to the person and then it's gone, so, I don't know, I've read maybe 5% of your poems, maybe.
Probably not even close to that.
No.
Yeah. Just the only ones that we judges that we see are the ones that we happen to take a picture of, for.
Or that somebody else
Or-
posts.
Right, right. I'll say far and away. Well, let me throw it out to y'all. Does anybody have a guess as to what far and away the most common poem topic is? Like nothing else is even close.
Dogs?
Yes.
Hey, you wrote the 2 dog boys.
Pets.
Pets generally, but dogs more than cats. Yeah, that's exactly right. and then sort of maybe a distant second would be like
Kids.
probably kids, and then significant others. Yeah, pets. People love to get poems about their pets, and they're pretty delightful too because
Oh, yeah.
people are always kind of like animated when they're talking about. Like a lot of times they'll show us a picture on their phone, and
But that's the thing I've started doing too. People are like, can you write a poem about my dog? I'm like, do you have a picture? Oh, and then they get so excited. Let me find a good one. So that's what helps me with the poem too, because if I can see a picture of the pet like that,
yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and it's like, and sometimes they'll just like, they'll show me a picture, like it'll be a dog, really cool. And I've had 2 fairly recently. I was like, can you show me a picture of your pet? One was a cat. And she's like, oh yeah, here's a picture. And she's a one-eyed cat with this huge big old, I'm like, why did you tell me she's a one-eyed cat? That's the best poem ever. And then the other one was like a picture of the dog, and it was like a little tiny Chihuahua dog on top of a huge hay bale, like out in the field. I'm like, well, that's like, what? You can't, I need to see that for the poem. Like, what dog would be up there on a hay bale like that, so tiny. So, yeah. Those are, and they're fun too. I like doing those poems.
Well, if there's no more questions, maybe we can just get in to start doing a little bit of the thing that we do. So what that would entail is for y'all just to kind of casually come up and one at a time and to, separately to each of us and tell us what you'd like to poem about, and we'll type one for you right on the spot.
Sound good?